Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the 805 Focus, where we spotlight nonprofit organizations throughout Santa Barbara County. The 805 Focus airs on community television, Channel 17, Monday through Friday from 3 to 4 every weekday. And my name's Eric Davis, Executive Director of TV Santa Barbara. And today we are joined by Lauren Roberts, who's not only the founder, but also the Executive Director of the Thriving Initiative. Welcome.
Thank you, Eric. It's great to be here.
So tell me a little bit about your origin story. How did this come about and how did you get it going?
Yeah, so the Thriving Initiative started with a grant proposal that I actually wrote when I was a college student at UCSB. And I never envisioned that it would turn into anything, let alone a 501c3 nonprofit. But the grant got nominated to a bigger competition and it won the Strauss Foundation Scholarship in 2019. And since then, it's just grown and grown into this incredible organization.
What is the Strauss?
The Strauss Foundation does public service projects for college students. So they're really empowering students to help solve issues in their communities.
And so you put together a grant proposal, which is not easy.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And this wasn't even your background, you said, at UCSB, correct?
Right. So I was studying something entirely different, and I really didn't ever anticipate that my proposal would win the competition. But I knew that it had to be nominated by the university. Mm-hmm. And the issue of interpersonal violence, so sexual assault, stalking, and domestic violence, was so prevalent on UCSB's campus and so underaddressed. And so I really wrote the proposal hoping that the university would just have to think about how big of an issue this was and what they might do to help address it. I wasn't expecting to have it go so far as to be chosen. And then, of course, I got to build this incredible organization that's solving the very issue that I initially, wanted to bring to their attention.
So you get the grant, a lot goes into it. I mean, establishing a 501c3 is a challenge. Mm-hmm. What was that? And that was 2019, right?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, here comes COVID as well on top of this. What kept you going through this?
Yeah, I really didn't envision that it would be more than a year-long program. But when I got the initial funding, I contacted every clinician I could find in Santa Barbara that did trauma work. Mm-hmm. So we work with survivors who have experienced some form of interpersonal violence. And that type of issue is very personal and invasive, and it needs to be addressed with the utmost care and confidentiality. And so I picked the very best people that I could find in Santa Barbara, and I asked, what would you all do, or what have you all seen be effective for your clients over the past 20, 30 years? And these clinicians were really the ones who came up with these different healing modalities that survivors could explore as kind of a platter, so to speak, of 7 different weeks of coping tools and techniques that a survivor might choose from in the aftermath of violence. So they explore anything from yoga to somatic healing, dance, artwork, and they're led by clinicians. So they have an undertone of trauma-informed psychoeducation and also practical tools that these students can use in their everyday lives.
So you brought experts in to help build these programs.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's fascinating. Can you expand a little bit on the programs that you've got going and the kind of almost holistic?
Yeah, exactly. That's the word that we use on our team a lot as well. So the programs are really built to address how prevalent trauma can be throughout someone's life and the different ways that we know survivors feel this type of impact. So in the aftermath of trauma, often someone struggles with PTSD, depression, and anxiety. And so we built the programs focusing on different areas that survivors could really ground back into physically being present, which is hard for people who have had an experience like this. And so the different workshops focus on building community among the students. So they're small groups of maybe 4 to 8 students, and they build these incredible connections with each other and with the clinicians in the community. And so each week there's a new provider who comes in and teaches on a new technique. And then at the end, the participants have gotten to see 7 different types of therapy, and they can choose what works for them and what style. Maybe they continue to see one of those therapists afterwards.
What are some of the most unique programs or things that you've seen?
That's a great question. One that we recently did that I thought was really innovative was blackout poetry. So people had different books. Everybody had a different book, and they would take one page and black out words until they came up with their own poem out of what was left. And we ran 3 different groups in the same night, 3 different cohorts. And it was incredible to hear about how different each group was and what they shared and wanted to talk about. But everyone left feeling really connected and like they were able to express something that they hadn't even seen quite literally on that page. It was different after the workshop from before.
And so it's a series of workshops and programs over a certain week period?
Yeah, it's 5 to 7 weeks. And sometimes we even have past participants come back for a second round of workshops, and we always change it up so that it's something new for them.
So you saw a need on the UCSB campus, wrote a grant, started addressing it. And where are you today? How do you describe the Thriving Initiative to, people you meet around town or to people watching the show?
Yeah, I mean, the Thriving Initiative is an amazing community of clinicians and volunteers who come together to build these incredible workshops that can help a survivor of interpersonal violence feel like themselves again after an act of violence that so closely threatens one's like sense of self or identity. So we like to say that it helps people come back to themselves after they feel that they've lost themselves.
And have you seen some real success stories?
Yeah, I can't even begin to share with you how beautiful it is to be in that space. And like I mentioned, I didn't plan that this would continue so far beyond that initial grant year. But being in the space when somebody experiences chronic pain go away for the first time after they've been assaulted is such an incredible experience. And the connection of the group is really something powerful.
Yeah.
Often people become isolated after experiencing violence like that. And so to see them feel safe again for the first time in their own body and let alone in a group is just absolutely one of the most beautiful things.
And that group dynamic's got to play an important role, I'd imagine.
Absolutely. And there's so many ways that you can see the group come together, both in the workshop, and we also have a lot of past participants who become volunteers with us and then bring that on to share that with their peers even beyond the space.
Yeah, and you're not alone, right?
Right.
And so you have a need for volunteers. People can engage with your organization not only through donating and supporting and funding, because I'm sure, clinical work or mental health work and all that is expensive and it takes a lot to run an organization, but you can also volunteer.
Yeah, absolutely. So both donating and volunteering makes a huge difference. We've had so many clinicians donate their time, and that's what's helped us make this last longer and grow into something bigger. We have volunteers from the community who help throw events and help with other aspects of the organization. So for anyone who might be interested in a really meaningful volunteer opportunity, this is definitely a great team to be a part of. And it's incredible to see also we call it the power through purpose, or this experience that can take so much of someone's life to be able to do something to help other people who have experienced something similar. It also is a really meaningful experience for the volunteers. And so that's been a secondary byproduct of just the incredible ripple effect of the organization.
And it's a good time to be talking about this because it's Sexual Assault Awareness Month. As we're taping here in April of 2025. Could you talk a little bit about that month, the importance of what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a particularly important month, and with this issue, it's so under-talked about. We know that, some statistics say that 1 in 2 women have experienced sexual violence in their lifetime. So if you know 2 women, you know somebody who's experienced something like this. But it's not common that survivors really ever share. That's changing, luckily, and I think Sexual Assault Awareness Month in April has a big part in that because it allows communities to have these conversations, and it really brings it to the forefront of holding people accountable by saying this is something that we're going to talk about. So this month really stands for that.
And you're a safe space if people want to come and talk.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. So we mostly serve students on college campuses. So right now we're at UC Santa Barbara and also Santa Barbara City College. And our programs are open to anyone who's enrolled in either of those institutions.
And this City College partnership is relatively new.
Yes.
right? How exciting is that?
Yeah, we are beyond thrilled to be working with the City College. They have been the best partners and they really see the need for this work and the impact that it has. The City College is doing such incredible things in our community, so to be able to partner with them has been such a privilege.
And how many people have you served, or do you continue to serve on a annual basis, or since 2019, since you wrote that grant?
Yeah, it's changed a lot over the years. So the first grant, we were serving 4 people at a time. So it took us a
Really?
long time to get up to a bigger number, but now we've served over 300 students here in town, which is really incredible when you think about how small the groups are and how
Yeah.
many we've done to make that happen. So about 70 students a year are finishing the programs, and even more are reaching out to us, and we're helping them find the right resources.
That's just amazing work.
Thank you.
Is this something you see kind of as your passion play now,
Yeah,
moving forward?
absolutely. Seeing the impact of the initial program is what really convinced me that this was something that needed a lot more attention and a lot more care to build it into something sustainable. We have a survey where we ask participants before and after the program what's changed. I was shocked at the results. I mean, people were saying that they had a decrease in symptoms of PTSD, depression, anxiety, the frequency of flashbacks. I mean, these are things that people spend a lifetime navigating with. And to see that go away in such a brief time, or to mitigate those, real health impacts, was truly incredible, in addition to the testimonials that we've received from how this has been important to various individuals.
I would think that it would take healing takes a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
How long do you work with, each person?
Yeah, that's a great point. Healing isn't linear and there's no time frame, which is why we allow people to come back to the program as many times as they need. And so it really depends on each individual. Some people are coming to us first. We're the first resource that they've accessed. We actually don't ask participants to share any details of what's happened to them to receive care with us, which is pretty untraditional. So often we'll see people on the beginning side of their healing journey, but we also see people who maybe experienced childhood abuse or sexual assault in a family setting, and they're coming to college for the first time and they're finally safe and they have the freedom to go work on that and heal in this safe space. So anywhere from weeks to years or decades in the aftermath of trauma, we see people join us and include us in part of their journey.
And how do people find you? And how is it? Because going from just a funded operation to a nonprofit, you've got to be out there too. People have got to be able to know what you're about and hear your story and find you. Yeah,
definitely. So our website is a key place for people to get in touch with us. And it's thethrivingInitiative.org. But somewhat bittersweet, one of the main ways that we receive interest in our program is that we send out an email to all the students on campus each quarter.
Okay.
And within hours of that email going out, we get a flood of interest for the programs, which really shows you the need for something like this, but is also devastating that there's still such a pervasive issue and that so many people are struggling with this really life-changing type of violence.
Wow, this is a really emotional work.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's also very uplifting.
Yes.
A lot of it, it's one of the worst things that can happen to someone, and it's an incredibly sad thing. But in our work, we get to see people finally feel okay again. And that's one of the most beautiful things, because for people who have gone through such a devastating thing, that hope or that sense that it will get better feels so far away. And we get to see other people achieve that, and it brings them so much closer to knowing that it's right around the corner. One of my favorite quotes that we got was that the workshop was the only time they felt like they could breathe during the week. So just having that sense of a safe space where all of a sudden you don't have to worry and you can just breathe, something as simple as that. And then, of course, it gets better and better with decreased flashbacks and things like that. But really, there's such a basic need that's not being met for these survivors. And by giving them the safety of the workshop and that container, they're able to come into themselves again.
Just the ability to breathe.
Yeah.
That's powerful. What does success look like for you?
For us, success has always been one person at a time.
Yeah.
We want one person to feel safe again. We want one person to have the coping tools that they need, to know that there's somebody who's going to be there to support them, who cares if they show up the following week. So to us, success is just continuing to do this important work and bringing it to more and more people.
And I bet now that you're 5 years in or maybe longer, you've had some tangible results that can, you came in with this just passion, the energy and smile, and you could tell you're making a difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
That's got to be so rewarding.
Yeah, it's really the survey data, seeing the numbers on how much it was impacting people's ability to sleep and breathe and just these basic things, in addition to the community and kind of the higher level, higher needs, but also the visual. You can see someone change being in that space for the 7 weeks. Somebody walks in a completely different person than they leave. And that's the part that keeps our whole team coming back, even though it's hard work.
And people outside of Santa Barbara or City College or UCSB, where could they find out more about, you mentioned Sexual Assault Awareness Month has resources, I would imagine, and getting the word out and just talking about it, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of great movements happening right now. Sexual Assault Awareness Month has Denim Day, which is an awareness day where people wear jeans or denim to show solidarity, and that changes every year, but you can definitely check out denimday.org. And the Me Too movement is also a great resource for people who are outside of the Santa Barbara community.
And what would you tell people? We're probably just touching the surface of what you do. What are some of the challenges you face, and how could people help?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the challenges that we face is finding a diverse set of amazing clinicians. We have so many that we love in our network, but there's so many more people out there doing great work, and we'd really like to incorporate some new voices. So to any clinicians out there or people who have an idea for something that's really worked for them in their healing journey and want to share that, really encourage people to get involved that way. But that's been one challenge. And of course, another challenge is this is a huge issue, and we're on the intervention side, helping in the aftermath of violence. We also see our work somewhat as prevention by mitigating PTSD, depression, anxiety, other mental health outcomes. We also know that survivors are likely to experience interpersonal violence again. They're more likely than their peers, which is an incredibly sad statistic. So by giving them the help that they need when they need it the most, we're also preventing future instances. And I would say that's been another challenge, is figuring out how to be a part of the broader ecosystem and help get more organizations together to do this work, because it's very vast.
And where do you find your clinicians? Are they all local, or can there be Zoom components to it? That's a deep work, right?
Yeah, right now it's all local, but during Zoom, we had a lot of fun reaching out to people outside of the community and getting new voices involved. And that was actually a time where we saw a really big increase in the need for services like this.
And you said you do kind of events or out in the community where people can engage or participate. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we'll do some outreach events and some community workshops that are open to anybody in the community. Those are more one-off, so checking our website to see what we're doing next is always a great idea. But we recently did one about kind of moving through grief and how people in the community could move through news and other things that are going on and use some clinical techniques to deal with stress and things like that.
And what's brought you the most joy?
That's a great question. A few years ago, I would have said the direct impact and seeing the participants, and that still in my heart is the main thing. But at this point, seeing the team and the way that this has changed the lives of the people who have devoted their lives to doing this hard work, I would say that that's bringing me the most joy, to see how many people have taken this to become part of their identity and to help others in this way. I just think that's incredibly beautiful.
Beautifully said. As we wrap up the show, is there anything you want to tell to our audience members? Any final words of?
Yeah.
You get the floor.
My final words, I mean, this is such an intense topic, and I really appreciate that people are willing to listen and talk about these issues. So my last parting words would be that you're not alone if you are facing something like this, or if you love somebody who's really struggling with these issues. There are so many resources out there, including ours, but others as well. And there's lots of people who want to help. So just knowing that.
Well, thank you, Lauren. That's Lauren Roberts, founder and executive director of the Thriving Initiative. What a great 20 minutes. And I'm glad thank you for joining us on the 805 Focus. I'm Eric Davis, executive director of TV Santa Barbara, and thank you for watching the 805 Focus.